Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to talk about what I have done in the month of January 2025. I know that we have not done very many movie reviews or lists, and we mostly did Goosebumps. This basically became a Goosebumps channel, which get ready because I am going to be making my own Goosebumps show after I'm done with my first two movies, and then also most likely another movie, which I could probably say now, these people in New Orleans, they want me to come make a movie with them. They have made tons of short films, but they need help making a movie. So they have they have asked me to come down there and direct it with them and also produce it. And so that'll probably be a lot of fun. I've always wanted to go to New Orleans, always wanted to. It's one of those places where honestly, like, that's like one of my favorite like places to think about, like New Orleans. New Orleans culture, New Orleans food, New Orleans, like everything. Like, it's just so cool. It's such a cool place. I have heard like there's a lot of crime in some areas, but I don't know if that's true. And I'll have to do some research. But overall, like, it seems like a really cool place. And these two people, they're really cool. So yeah, I can't wait to do that. That is a project that I am attached to, which is funny because I can say that for the first time. Like, I am attached to direct this other project. And if you guys are also wondering why my voice sounds like this, I had to do 3 different voices today. Or actually, I guess just 2. But they were, I did 2 that I was thinking of, like, should I do one or the other before I chose one. So 3 voices, 3 characters. So let's get started. First off, there was a sequence in my movie and it involved snow. That's all I'll say. I was hoping to shoot that sequence last year in January. I even took pictures, but I was like, nope, the snow is going to melt too fast. And so I couldn't get the actress to come because I just thought it'd be a waste of time, be a waste of money, and it wouldn't solve any issue. And then I waited and waited, and there was no snow at all. Then in April, I actually contacted Rob Ager, who is like one of my top like influences as a film director. He's like one of my favorite like people because he's so smart and he's really logical and he just thinks everything out in such a straightforward way. Like, he's a very smart thinker and a very decent person, and he's got a lot of great like film analysis videos. And I asked him what to do because like I was like, I need to ask like someone who knows how to solve problems. And I asked him and he was like, well, you could take bed sheets, white bed sheets, and lay them out and make that look like snow. And you could show it in the back, like in the far background, so that it's kind of like obscured, and you could add some effects to it. And I was like, that sounds really good. And then I thought about, The Shining. They used road salt for the snow, or I don't know if it was road salt. It might have been like a special salt, but they used salt for snow. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to pull a Shining and I'm going to shoot the snow sequence. And I did not feel intimidated about this. I watched Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula for the first time in full. And I say in full because I had tried to watch it before and I threw up because it was so bad. But but I watched it, and the snow at the end of that movie was made with millions and millions of dollars. And I thought the snow looked terrible. The snow looked disastrous. It looked just so fake and phony. And I was like, okay, if they can get away with that, then I'm sure that people will give me some leeway with my zero budget movie, where it's just everything is like, oh, you need to get this, you need to get this. Okay. And it's like, I'm sure people will give me a little bit of slack. And I got road salt, I got a bunch of sheets, and wow. I had this girl come out after the original one. She decided to turn into a fraud. She already demonstrated some red flags. She took like over a month to sign her contract because she was quote unquote having her lawyer look it over, which I probably was a bunch of bullshit, to be quite honest. And, I told her like weeks in advance, like, hey, this is the day you're coming. And she never responded. And then even on the day that she was supposed to show up, I messaged her, and she thought that I was her boss. And so I asked her, are you coming in? And she said, yeah. And then she said, wait, who is this? And then I told her it was me. And then she stopped responding. So, she probably was like, oh, my boss wonders if I'm going to come in. And, he doesn't know about the fact that I signed a contract and then breached it by not showing up to film when I was supposed to, And so, but I was lucky enough to get this girl by posting a 24-hour casting notice. I had 3 people submit. Two of them auditioned, but one of them ended up getting it, and she came, and I was lucky that it was her because she had what I would describe as like a football player father who's like 8 feet tall. He's like a character out of a King of the Hill or something, and they came to help me out, but the problem was it was too windy. It was so windy that it was like the worst possible day to choose to film this type of scene. So sheets were blowing everywhere. We had to pick up a bunch of rocks and hold the sheets down. It was a disaster. And on top of that, my shot list was just not it was not translating to the environment. It was not translating to what we were shooting, so it looked terrible. And I got all these shots where I wasn't even in the picture, and it pissed me off so much. And then we came back again to finish it up, and again, it's like I really didn't, I just completed what I had done because I had not even looked at the footage so far, so I was like, no. What happened was the first time I didn't have any shots of myself. I had mostly just filmed shots of her. Another kind of issue that I was having was that this character, I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do with her. I wanted her to be mysterious, sinister, kind of emotional all at the same time, play a lot of different emotions, be a full character even without having any lines or anything. And I was figuring out, how should I do this? Because the way that she decorated her face and she did all this work into becoming this character, this, human character. And honestly, I thought that the footage was pretty good for the most part. There was some focus, I think, on both days into, getting a lot of shots of her and her face, and then, I got all these shots where my face wasn't even in the frame, and it was they just looked terrible. It's probably some of the worst footage that I've gotten for the movie. And it's just that sometimes that happens, though. But what you have to do is while you're shooting, you have to check your work, and you have to make sure that things are going how you want them to go, because you don't want to go home after working for 8 hours and then find out that you wasted all that time and effort. And I mean, pouring the salt out and using the salt and the sheets, it was like hell. It was like a living hell. The only reason that I got that done because her father was there and he was able to help. Because keep in mind, guys, I'm a one-person crew and I rely on whatever help I can get. So, that whole shoot was terrible. And so what I did was I edited it together, and I put some music on it, and I was not, even the music I made this music, I homemade this music, and I hated it. I just hated everything about it. And I feel like even if I have to do a bunch of work to redo something or whatever, I'm not going to release something that I hate. And I'm not going to release something that I'm really upset with, because that's not, it's just, I have integrity as an artist, and I'm not going to release something that I don't think is at least like a good effort. Like, like let's say like it was something that was really tough and I just couldn't figure out a way to get it, and so I just did the best I could. Like, I would release something like that. But this, I knew I could do better. I knew that this wasn't it. And in early December, as soon as I made the decision to get rid of my former co-star, the Troublemaker, as soon as I decided that, I was like, you know what? My movie's going to have real snow. And it's going to be so much better than it ever was originally going to be. It's going to be great. It's going to be what I envisioned. It's not going to be what someone else envisioned who was trying to take over the project. It's not going to be a bad movie, at least on purpose. If it turns out that people don't like it, then at least I will have put the effort in and made the movie that I wanted to make, which is the most important thing every damn time. So I even told the Grieving Woman actress, we're going to be shooting your sequence again, and this time we're going to have real snow. But then it came time to December, and we got snow like early in the month, and it wasn't a lot. It just was kind of like, I don't even know. It might have just been like 3 inches, 3.5 inches. That's what she said. And I messaged her, and I got no response. And it was weird, because months and months earlier, I had asked her, or I had told her, and she messaged back and said she was excited. So I was like, well, WTF. So I was like, you know what? If I shoot this sequence again, I'm just going to shoot it by myself, because I'm sick and tired of these people. I'm sick and tired of these fraudsters and these, as my friend calls them, expendables, where, they're not reliable, they're not trustworthy, they don't do the work that they're supposed to do. And I'm not accusing this girl of anything, because for all I know, she never even saw my message. I mean, it might have gone to her spam folder, or maybe her parents didn't want her to have to do it again, or maybe they didn't want to have to drive all the way over here again. But it's just kind of bizarre, because it's like, this was literally the best possible version that we could have gotten on this level, with this budget, with this crew, with these actors, me and her and I. This is the best possible version of that sequence that it could have been, and you're not going to show up or even send a message like weeks later and say, sorry, I didn't see this. Message me again when you're ready to shoot. if there's more snow. Like, you know what I mean, guys? Like, that's just ridiculous. So I was like, okay, fuck this shit. I'm just gonna do it myself. And that's the mentality that I have had my entire journey as a filmmaker is fuck this shit. I'm gonna do it myself. And I'm gonna get it done. And while you're over there, I'm gonna have gotten my work done. Because that's what I do. I finish things. Okay, so we ended up getting basically the perfect storm. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but Ohio got a shit ton of snow. It started off where I prepared and everything, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to go there and film it myself. I'm going to film up to a certain point, and then after there's a lot more snow on the ground, I'm going to come back and film the rest of the sequence so that it just makes the sequence even better, because it's like that's even better than what I originally imagined, because it's like the character has been through this entire blizzard with feet of snow, probably like a foot and a half of snow or something crazy like that. This character was through the whole damn thing. And it obviously, the setting looked beautiful, the land, the area looked beautiful, and I also have a funny story about shooting. Well, I did also have to have Safi help me. And as you guys can imagine, she complained the entire time. I would tell her, like, okay, this is how you do this shot. I want you to do this. I'm going to be in frame here. And she would just say, I don't know how to do this. And it's like, you're clearly lying. And you're clearly like just saying that because you don't want to have to do it. And so, but she did it anyway. And guess what? I was able to get all the shots that I needed. There's only one shot that I wish was better. There's one shot where she had to walk down the hill holding the camera while snow is all over the place, and she didn't want to slip, so it's very shaky. But I'm actually hoping that it'll work to the movie's effect, because it'll make the character more mysterious. It'll be more like otherworldly. It won't be so human. It won't be so just boring, bland, general, like, you know what I mean? Like a smooth shot down there, anyone could have done that. Anyone. All you do is just hold it and walk down there. And plus I had the Steadicam on too. I had a gimbal, and the gimbal was on, and she was holding it, and she still couldn't do it. But it was pretty funny because, both days we got this filming done, I think like an hour each. Like, we really didn't take that long to film. The only hiccup that we had in the second time was we had to go all the way back to the apartment because I forgot the saw. And I also forgot the sign of the area, of the location, and I forgot an important prop. So we had to go all the way back, and then all the way back to the set. And the funniest thing, though, was that, guys, just imagine there has been a blizzard in the area. The next day, we go out to film, and it says no trespassing, no bicycling, no skateboarding, no loitering, all that bullshit. The people do it anyway because there's this opening in the bushes where people can walk down to Target and to other shopping places and fast food places. Well, all of a sudden, this guy is bicycling through the shot. He's like, we never had that problem in May when we shot with those other people, and we shot there twice. We never had anyone come in and disrupt our filming. But for somehow, after a foot and a half of snow, there's this guy. What was that? Ew. and he bicycles through our shot, and then he got off his bicycle and he walked like painstakingly slow and then said sorry as he's walking by. It was so funny because it's not that like I minded, it's just it was fine, you know. I mean, I wasn't even shooting. I was just I was shooting, but I was just telling Safi what to do. You know, I was just kind of instructing her with the camera on. And so I actually do have that on camera. And that was hilarious, though. But other than that, like, it went pretty smoothly. I think I even released a video on the Risky Ideas Movies channel where I showed myself going down the hill to get an important prop for the scene. And then in the editing, I had some issues with the sky. Because the sky, for some reason, there were all these lines going in the sky. And it looked kind of like glitching. It looked like this isn't supposed to be here. But then I realized, no, this isn't the sky. Safi told me too. She said, this is the snow. This was all that snow in the sky. It's not glitching. It's actually the snow that is about to come down. Because the next time that we filmed there, we shot shots of the sky, and there weren't any lines at all. So that was pretty funny. I had never heard about that before. It might just be from shooting on an iPhone. But there were all these lines in the sky. So I had to adjust the editing for every single shot differently. It was a painstaking work. Then, when it came to the character, the other character in the scene, I decided to do what I originally wanted to do in the script before I was able to find this. You know, because the original actress that I found, she had a very Tim Burton look, Tim Burton character look to her. And I was really hoping that she would like, that you could see her face and see kind of like a demented look with her character and see this creepy face, creepy eyes. But for this other girl, it was kind of the opposite, where she did a good job with like makeup and with, you know, making her appearance look like the character that I had imagined. But it wasn't working for me at all. And, you know, I'm not going to say that, but like on set, but like it did not work for me at all. And if I had released the film with her like showing her face like that, I wouldn't have been happy with the character, because it wasn't what I originally wanted. You know, originally I had envisioned this character where you never see her face or anything. It's just like a complete black void. And so, you know what I did, guys? Instead of having to worry about somebody showing up or not showing up, I just took all of her footage that she had shot in May with me, and I just cut her out of the footage, and I put her on top of this new footage, shot a bunch of shots where it was just like blank shots, and I just put her in there, and I spliced her into the picture. I darkened her to the point of where you couldn't see a single feature on her face. And it was just hilarious, because I was like, wow. Like, you know, last time there was this big focus on like, okay, we gotta show her face. Can we get another like close-up shot of her face? You know, it was just really queer. And it was kind of like, you know, like this sequence is not about like showing her face. It's more about showing my face, because I'm not going to get into the specifics now, but you'll understand why when you see the scene, that the sequence is more about my character and how her character is bringing out a reaction in him. And so, but I just thought it was funny, because then in editing this, I basically just, I I even did like a troll picture where I took a picture with nobody and then I put her over the picture, how she is in the movie. And it's just, but it's so perfect, and it's not in like a mean way. Like, I hope this doesn't come off as sounding mean, but honestly, after all these people just act like they don't care and don't show up, I kind of don't care. And also, the reason why I don't care is because it looks exactly like I wanted it to look. And it's funny because in going through this painful experience, I achieved something that I didn't know how to do. Because if I had my druthers, I would have had her disguise herself to where you can't see her face, and then, she would have been like that on set. But I didn't realize that you could just do that on the editing app and do it in such a way. I mean, it's fucking hilarious. It's like, the funniest part, there's this shot where I shot of her down on the ground, and it's a shot of her side. And this is something, too, you guys should keep in mind. It's good to take a lot of shots that you never planned on taking, because it gives you a lot of extra stuff in the editing department. And I shot this shot of her from the side where I had the camera rolling and she walks onto camera. And a big issue that I had with the editing was making it look like somebody's passing me. My idea was to have Safi in POV pointing the camera and passing me. It was a very easy shot. I could have done it with my eyes closed, but she couldn't handle it. But she was able to do the one down the hill fine, but then when it came to the part of passing me, it was just too hard for her. And shooting in the snow, by the way, is a nightmare. My right foot was completely numb by the end of shooting the second time. My feet were completely wet. It was a disaster. It was awful, but it's so funny because I shot a shot of myself from the side, and then guess what I did, guys? I added the video footage of her, the actress, walking onto the camera to do this completely different shot. And I put that on the shot. So I showed POV, and then I cut to the side shot of her briefly, like, quote unquote, walking off camera. And the walking off camera was her walking onto camera in a completely different environment, in a completely different shot. It's just so funny. It's just so like good that I was able to accomplish this, because it was a huge load off my mind to get this sequence done how I wanted it, and to get it done in such a way to where I was finally proud of it. And I will say also, too, I thought about the actress, Tatum, and I decided to give her one shot. And I won't tell you guys anything more, obviously, because you have to see the film. But I did give her one shot as a courtesy, even though, honestly, it wasn't a part of my original vision. But it ended up working. So it ended up feeling like it was better than what I had envisioned, and it looked really good. It didn't look like it was originally, like it was it's just so funny. I really hope that she doesn't have, like, start a riot because of, like, not being shown, like, in the whole sequence. But, like, that was the whole point of the character, though. I mean, yeah, my charger just fell out of my phone. Anyways, then my other order of business in January. Oh, my charger doesn't have any battery anyway. I wanted to finish shooting at the business building that my friend Vichyssoise let me film at, at least the two scenes in the meeting room, because I have other shots to film in the hallways and the lobby and etc. But I'll do that at a later date, and I will be doing that with my co-star, and she is going to be playing the cult secretary as well. So she's going to be Amy, and she's going to be cult secretary. And I already got her wig and her costume for that character. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be a throwback to Sharon Tate's character on the Beverly Hillbillies, Janet, the secretary. So, I don't know if you guys remember, but I had talked in my video last month, or one of the videos, about how there was this guy who seemed like he wanted to help me. He reached out to me and said, "Oh, I'll help you for free." And, he seemed kind of like a big shot. And then, he kind of seemed a little unreliable, though. But then he showed up to set to film. And then he left. And for some reason, it seemed like, I don't know, it was this weird thing of, where it seemed like he was helpful. And he gave me a lot of good advice and helped out a lot. But it also kind of just seemed like he was a little full of himself, a little bit like, I'm too cool for school. And I reached out to him about coming back to film, and on the day of the second shoot, he actually did not show up and said he was quote-unquote sick. And, I knew it was a bunch of bullshit, honestly. I was just like, okay, yeah, that's bullshit. So I was like, I don't know what to do, because, I shot that whole first sequence with all those characters. And honestly, I've got to say, that was the biggest disappointment so far of filming, Drimp 2.0, because the shots that I got in that first scene with his character, I purposefully shot all these wide shots, wide angles, to show the scope of the room, to show these people in this environment together in such a grand way. And now those shots have been ruined, because what ended up happening was I messaged him again in early January, and he's like, "Oh, hey, what do you need help with?" And it's like, well, the sequence that you haven't finished yet, start with that. But I told him, well, I need to finish shooting at the business building. And then he just didn't respond. And so, once again, so this month was basically me just saying, well, fuck this shit, I'm going to do it myself. Or in this case, do it with Michael, who, he had showed up the second day, and, he was, really, really weirded out why that guy didn't show up. He wasn't weirded out at me. He was just weirded out, just completely taken back and surprised. And I felt bad for him, because, we had agreed to film this date, and we had it set up a week in advance. And, the other guy, he had acted like, okay, he was coming, but then all of a sudden he didn't. And, but then this other time where he just wouldn't respond, it just, and also too, I asked that guy for behind the scenes pictures, because he offered them, but he never sent them to me. So very, very weird, strange behavior. And so I just decided again, okay, I'm going to do it myself. So what I did was I came up with my own character, and I completely reimagined the character. I completely came up with the character that I originally envisioned. Because I'll say that too. When I cast the original actor as Amy's dad, he just kind of showed up like a... I don't know what he was thinking, honestly. I thought his outfit was fine, but he really didn't have any concept of a character. He was just kind of an NPC who just stood around and said the lines. But I thought that he was good until he quit. And then the second guy, he did a really good job at like recreating his wardrobe. But his acting was pretty bad. I mean, this guy has a master's degree in acting. And to be honest, it just kind of seemed like he didn't study his lines, didn't know the story, didn't know the characters. And to be fair, I didn't give him the full script, but it didn't really seem like he had a clue. And, even though I would try to give him little pieces of direction and pieces of advice about the character, and it just didn't feel like the character. And so I was like, even though it's going to be a painstaking process, I'm going to become his character myself. And then we're going to go back and we're going to reshoot just the shots of my character and add those in with the shots that I've already shot. And then we're going to finish up the other sequence, and then I'm going to be done. And I had Michael help me as well. He was a huge part of why I was able to get these sequences accomplished. And, he was also kind of disappointed once again. He was like, really? Like, are you serious? Like, he's like, because he's wanting to make his own film, or maybe like a short film. And he's thinking maybe he'll just be the only character in the film. That's how scared he has gotten from working with me and seeing this horrible, like, fraud behavior go on. And these people who, it's not the fact that, like, they don't want to do it. It's the fact that they've agreed to do it. And then they just completely flake out or quit or whatever the fuck they do. It makes no difference. They still fuck over the project and fuck over all the people involved. But, he's gotten so jaded by this experience of seeing all these people just completely act so unprofessional, how they've acted with my project, and just, quitting and flaking out and all that crap. So, but at least he sees something in me to show up all these times, because he could have easily said, well, I'm not going to show up either, because it's like, I don't have the money to sue anyone, and so I don't know. I don't know what to do. I just have to take the licks and, just work with what I can work with. So this character came with his own bald cap, and I did not have enough time to get a bald cap. So I tried to make my own by painting latex onto a balloon. And I even stayed up late to do this effect. And I was really excited for it. And then the very morning of the shoot, this morning, I know, I just said double twice. But this morning, I was trying to peel it off, and the balloon popped, and the latex just shrunk into itself, and I put it on my head too. It looked terrible. It looked like a head condom. It looked really bad. It looked really bad, and it was really uncomfortable too, because it was so tight, because it was so small, and it had shrunken in, and it just did not work at all. And I was so, like, upset about that, because I was so excited about having a bald cap and having this character be bald. And he will be bald in other scenes. But for this scene, what I ended up doing was I put a hat on. The character also likes to wear hats. So I brought a hat, and the character had a hat anyway. And so he puts it on, and you can kind of hardly see his face, or it's kind of like obscured and kind of like more just focused on like the hat, like kind of being over his face and hiding his expressions and everything. And so honestly, like, today was kind of like a stressful day of filming, because I showed up and there was all this to do about getting the meeting room door unlocked. We had to go all the way and get my friend's father to open it because my friend did not show up again because he couldn't. He got completely. Uh, he just, it wasn't like he was way too busy, and he had I don't know, whatever. But like he called me and he explained it, and he made sure that everything went okay, and he did that all three times. So it's so funny because after months of waiting for him to get this location, he's practically like gifted me the location. I mean, it's hilarious. It's like, this is a location, by the way, to rent out that place to have like a wedding or something. You'd have to pay like $800 a day, and I've gotten it for free, and it's like, it's so cool because it's like, that's the magic of filmmaking, is like people have connections sometimes, and they can use those connections for good purposes, such as making a horror movie. And but it was scary because I wanted to show Michael the shots that I was thinking of adding these new other shots into. And guess what, guys? You know that stupid anti free speech whatever that the government did that banned TikTok? Well, it also banned my editing app that I have been using. So all these sequences that I had edited and I had done all this work with were suddenly out of my barrier. And luckily that was undone later on in the day. But that was horrible because I was like, oh my God, am I going to have to re-edit all this stuff? Like, I was like, holy shit, I just showed up to film today and all of a sudden I don't have any editing app, and all the footage that I've edited is unavailable for me to even get. And so I was really, really freaked out. And then I was freaked out about the bald cap. And then I shot my footage, and I also had issues with the tie. The ties that I picked out, there was just something about, they're a little too fat or something, because they just looked very loose and very, very like, I don't know. I guess it works for the second sequence, but the first one, I just, nah. So I'm going to have to play with that character a little bit for next sequence, but we ended up shooting that character shots in like an hour. And another thing that I had to deal with was Michael had to leave by a certain time. So I had to make sure that we got done by a certain time, which, I'm fine with, like, getting things done fast and being efficient, but it just adds an extra level of, like, stress. And so that was another reason why the shoot was kind of like, well, I mean, it would have been so much easier if we just had that one extra person. But, the one extra person wasn't very reliable and didn't want to show up to do the work that he agreed to do. So, I had to become that extra person. And then Safi, she had to help out as well. So later on in the day, oh yeah, also, while we were shooting, Safi sat out in the hallway, and there were a bunch of people who would walk by the door that we were shooting in this particular room, and they would just look in on our room and, like, look at what we were doing. Like we were doing something wrong. And even when Safi told them that we had permission to be there and film there, they had, like, these disapproving looks, and it was so funny. It's like, because Michael and I, we didn't know anything about that, because we were just busy, getting our work done and filming and everything. But, like, they were so, like, weird. And they were really, like, because in the first sequence, it involves, like, mixing a drink, like a special drink. And they were like, what is that liquid in there? And Safi had to tell them it's soda. And it's like, why are they so concerned? It's just so funny. And it's also funny, too, because it's like the second sequence, especially, if someone came by and watched us doing what we were doing, they would probably be very concerned. But it's like we were only shooting a little fragment of that sequence because we have shot these sequences basically in fragments. And, it's almost, and I was telling Michael this, it reminded me of the saying, and then there were two, and then there were one. You know what I mean, guys? Like, it just worked out that way. But, like, we had a really good time filming, though. Like, it was very stressful at first. It ended up being very fun and very, like, stress-free because, working with Michael is a lot of fun. And it's not like with, having to worry about, like, there are other actors sometimes where it feels like you have to worry so much about how you come off to them that it actually impedes on the work that you're doing, because it's like you're more worried about making an impression on people who have come to work for free, basically. And it's just, I think that's a huge mistake that people can make too. If they're making a movie, you shouldn't care about the impression that you give people, because it's just completely irrelevant. Like, what's relevant is that you get your work done and that you're professional and you're respectful and, you do what you need to do. But other than that, like, fuck impressions and fuck what people think, because, Michael and I worked together really, really well. And he ended up being very helpful. And it honestly, again, it was the best version of these sequences that we could get on our level. And I say that because there wasn't a hiccup that we had at the end. It was the last special effect, and I was so confident that it would be so easy, but it turned out to be a really, really hard. And I can't really tell you exactly what it is because it would be a spoiler, but let's just say it involved mortician's wax and something that they call soaping out the hair. So soaping out hair means that you wet your hair and you put soap on it, and then it hardens, and you can paint on top of it or something. It's really confusing. But that didn't work at all because I didn't have the time to let the hair dry. And then the mortician's wax, it got all in my hair, and as well, Safi had to help with blood tubing. She had to help with pumping blood into the tubing, and the way that it was, I don't know what went wrong. Like, I looked at these shots, and they just both looked terrible, and like the first, and I know that sounds funny, they both just looked terrible though. Like, the first one, both of them, another issue was the top of my head was cut off of the screen, which is just like, well, you don't even get to see the effect. And so it was just kind of like a big disappointment. It was like watching a balloon deflate and fly around, and it was just kind of like, wow. But, I've decided I'll probably have that effect off camera, because it might just be better to do it that way anyway. Because I feel like it would just kind of be a waste of time to just do that one special effect. I mean, I learned lessons, and I still am learning lessons right now, because at this very moment, I still have mortician's wax in my hair. It is stuck in my hair, and it won't come out, and so I'm pretty screwed. But, yeah, that is what I did in January. This is the next episode of Let's Make a Movie, and this has been a great stream of consciousness, and I can't wait to make more streams of consciousness in the future. So, I am inching my way to the finish line. Not a lot of people can say that. People are too obsessed with like, oh, I need to spend thousands and thousands to get a camera because I have to make a real movie and I have to do this and I have to do that, and and then you have the people who are like, well, I can't make a real movie. I have to make a short movie first. And then you have these two people, and I'm not putting them down, but like, I've seen this with other people, is what I'm saying, where it's like, well, now you know how to make a short film, but you don't know how to make a feature film. So it's like, you've done all this work and put all this work into these short films, but when it comes to making a feature film, it's like, well, you don't even have a clue. And it's like, well, that's because making a feature film is a big deal, and it's essentially like making a long list of short films. But the problem is that with a feature film, you have to worry about the big picture and what it turns out to be after you've filmed everything too. You could go to edit the movie at the end and be like, well, that's my fears, that like I'm going to get to the end where I'm done with shooting, and then I look and I say, wow, it's really slow, or this doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. And so I'm trying to think about those things preemptively. And I think also, like, honestly, I've said this before, because I've said before, if I had to do it all over again, I would have made a much simpler movie. Yes, I do agree on that. To be fair, I thought that the script that I wrote was a simple script, because I'm a very, like, I make a lot of things overly complicated sometimes, and I did think that the script that I wrote was simple, though. That it is pretty funny, because it's not simple in any way, shape, or form. It's like a labyrinth of sorts. But I definitely think, though, after making this movie, you should definitely, if you want to make movies, you should make a full movie first. Because if you don't, you're going to get into this comfort zone where you know how to make a short movie, and you make short movies over and over and over, and you never want to take a chance and pull the trigger and make a full movie, and before you know it, you need the help of someone who is in the middle of making his first movie on an iPhone with a bunch of people who quit and a bunch of disasters, had his house taken away from him, had his uncle commit suicide, had a past life journey go on where he discovered that he was in this whole situation that he still has to even solve the mystery to, like X-Files or some shit. It's basically like, that new movie Saturday Night? It's basically like that movie on steroids, and if it was real. And it's like, that's the making of my movie. And if you need help from someone in that position, then I think it's a demonstrator that, there needs to be, you need to make a full movie first. Because once you make a full movie, making a short movie would be like a cakewalk. It would be like, oh, I can make a short movie this weekend. I could make a short movie right now. So, yeah. So, anyways, I'm really excited about going to New Orleans. I'm really excited about finishing my movie. And I'm really excited about finishing my second movie. And my second movie is much simpler, and that's why it's going to be finished so much faster, because it's not going to... I mean, there's very few characters in the movie. There's like 5 or 6 characters in the whole movie. So there's not very many people to worry about. And the story is very simple. And yeah, and so I'm very excited for you guys to see my first 3 movies, and then I will get to work on making a Goosebumps fan series, which is going to be so much better than the terrible Goosebumps that they've made. So goodbye, everybody. See you soon.